he married his wife, and they were both from farm families, so they both liked farming. And he actually rented a farm and ended up doing some work for the in-laws. And he was a farmer for 16 years. And during this time, there was a famous book written in Japan by a Japanese author about Iwo Jima. And there was a whole chapter dedicated to Dunlap. And the name of the chapter was the Fighting Farmer from Illinois. During the time that he was a farmer, Paramount Pictures offered him $20,000 for his story and to be a consultant to make a movie about his experiences on Iwo Jima and what he did and how he got the Medal of Honor. And he actually turned it down because he really didn't want to glorify the war. He thought it was horrible, and he thought movies like that made kids want to go to war, and he didn't want to be a part of that. Dunlap is so revered in Monmouth that when they put up a statue to honor the veterans of foreign wars, they actually used him, a picture of him, for the statue. And actually, this gun, he's carrying this gun in the statue. And in the Johnson book by Bruce Canfield, you can see he dedicated part of the book to telling the story of this gun. And there is a picture of the statue in the actual book. And anyway, when the statue was done, it was a sculptor in Colorado. And us, knowing the family and also having an FFL, we transferred the gun to the sculptor so that he could make an exact likeness of it. And of course, we transferred it back to and from Colorado, back to the Dunlap family. An interesting story that he told that I've never seen in print, but he said that there were 12 heroes of Guadalcanal, which I've never seen any record of that. I'm not aware of it, but he said that Johnson was just coming out and they were sending a few of them. And he said the first 12 with A serial numbers went to the heroes of Guadalcanal. And one of those heroes, by the time it got to the Pacific Theater, was under Robert Dunlap's command, and he had already been killed. So Dunlap, being his commanding officer, it went to him, and he looked at it and fired it, and he liked it better than the Grand. So he decided this would be his rifle. And he fell in love with this gun, to the point where if you went to Dunlap's house and you said, hey, you got the Medal of Honor, can I see your Medal of Honor? He would actually say, well, what you really want to see is my rifle. That was what was with me when I did it. The medal was something I got later after the war, but the gun is what saved my life when I was there. I became a consultant for James Julia Auction Company in 2007. They asked me to appraise a Luger collection that they were looking at auctioning, and they wanted my help with it, so they flew me out. Anyway, I did a good job for them. I got along great. Jim Julia was a great guy, and we had a really good relationship. So he started hiring me for virtually every auction to do consulting, cataloging, and pricing on the things that I generally know the best, being Lugers, World War II era, World War I era, automatic pistols, etc. And while I was there, obviously, I would look at what had come in, whether I was cataloging it or not, whether it was my specialty. And one day I went and looked, and here was the gun, and here was a picture of Mr. Dunlap, my 7th and 8th grade math teacher, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, there's no way the family would ever auction this gun. But here it was, and I knew the gun. He was a math teacher, he was into numbers. And the serial number was A0009, so he called it 999, and he talked about that. And he actually, he carved his name on the forearm when he got the gun. So I knew this was his gun. So often in this business, you get stories and you get documentation, but do you really know that it is what they claim? And this, I absolutely knew it was his. I knew the gun I knew him, I knew the gun when he had it. You know, we actually transferred it to the sculpture and had it for a time where we could study it and look at it. So I absolutely knew this was the gun, and it was just a fluke. And I thought, you know, this is a piece of local history. He was born in Abingdon. We're in Galesburg. Abingdon is 5 miles south of here, and Monmouth is 11 miles west of here. He taught in Monmouth for years, which is how I got to know him. And of course the auction was in Maine. I knew if somebody bought this gun, it would never be seen locally again. So I just made it a point that I had to buy it, and not to resell. I wasn't worried about what the real value was. I wanted to be able to put it on display in the shop. All my friends had him as a teacher back in school. We all knew him. You know, he was a beloved guy, and I just didn't want this rifle to leave our area. I wanted to keep it here, and I wanted to have it available for people to see that knew him. I would say a decent Johnson, and it's not in the best condition in the world. I mean, this was in combat on Iwo Jima, so it's got its scars, and it was probably a $5,000 or $6,000 gun. In my head, I was willing to go $35,000 on it. That was what I could really afford out of pocket, and I got it for $22,750. So I was very happy to get it. And I'm really not a collector. You know, we buy and sell all the time. I love the history. I love guns like this. But in order to be a dealer, you have to be able to buy them and then sell them, or consign them and sell them. Like they said in Scarface, don't get high on your own supply. And that's kind of been my mantra when it comes to buying guns that I like, is you have to be able to let them go. But this is the one exception because of the local history and my connection with Mr. Dunlap. The Johnson and the Garand were very similar in the sense that the military wanted .30-06 semi-automatic rifles for combat. Obviously the Germans had the G43 and you know, they were trying to advance past bolt actions. And the main difference between the guns was that the Johnson had a rotary magazine, and one of the downsides is if this got dented, it didn't function well. And fortunately with Dunlap that never happened, because he never, and to look at it, everything looks intact, but I know that was supposed to be the weak point of the Johnson. This is actually a very durable and great functioning gun. And although it's very valuable and I haven't fired it yet, I really do intend to someday fire it. I mean, these guns are well made, very reliable, and I expect it'll be very accurate. According to Dunlap, this gun was the most accurate rifle that he shot when he was in the military. So as you can see, this rifle is very special to me. He was a great guy. It was an honor to know him, and it's an honor to be able to own this. If you would like to see this gun in person, it is on permanent display in our showroom at 140 South Seminary Street, Galesburg, Illinois. You are welcome to come in, and you can see it through glass. We're not going to handle it or shoot it, but it's here for all to see. If you have any more information or questions about this, send me an email at brad@simpsonltd.com. Thank you.